Okay, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're digging into something that's honestly a bit of a linguistic mystery, based on Dr. George Payton's amazing lecture about the hidden challenges of translating verbal ideas. You know, if you've ever wondered why translating an ancient text isn't just a simple copy-paste word-for-word swap, well, you're in the right place. We're going to put on our detective hats today and uncover how actual dynamic actions get perfectly disguised inside seemingly ordinary words. So, let's dive right in.
Right off the bat, here's the massive roadblock translators hit when they cross from one grammatical world to another. How on earth do you translate an abstract noun for a culture that literally does not use them? I mean, what do you do when the original language leans heavily on a type of word that the target language just doesn't have? It's a recipe for a complete communication breakdown.
So, here is our roadmap for the explainer. 1. The translation gap. 2. Unmasking verbal ideas. 3. The translator's toolkit. 4. Decoding the fruit of the spirit. 5. The participle puzzle. And 6. Why clear translation matters.
All right, Section 1. The translation gap, when words go missing.
To really grasp the real-world impact of this, you gotta hear this striking anecdote Dr. Payton shares about translating over in Papua New Guinea. In their local language, abstract nouns completely do not exist. They just aren't a thing. So if you try to do a literal word-for-word translation of that famous Galatians 5 passage about the fruit of the Spirit to someone there, it literally just sounds like the fruit of the Spirit is blah, 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 blah. Seriously, the meaning completely evaporates because the grammatical structure to hold those ideas simply isn't there.
Let's move on to Section 2, Unmasking Verbal Ideas, the culprit.
Meet the main suspect in our mystery, the verbal idea. Now, a verbal idea is basically a word, usually posing as a noun or maybe an adjective, whose core, underlying semantic meaning is actually a verb. It's essentially an action wearing the disguise of a static object or description. On paper, sure, it looks like a noun, but in its soul, it behaves exactly like a verb.
This really illustrates the problem perfectly. In English, we treat words like punishment or knowledge or deliverance as concrete things you can have, but their underlying concepts are actually the actions to punish, to know, and to deliver. And here is the crucial takeaway. When you disguise an action as a noun, you leave out absolutely vital information. You're creating a gap. A noun doesn't tell us who is doing the action, and it doesn't tell us who is receiving it. It's kind of like finding a muddy footprint at a crime scene, but having zero idea who actually stepped there.
Which brings us to Section 3, the translator's toolkit, solving the case.
To bridge these massive gaps, Dr. Payton uses a really specific three-step methodology. It's brilliant in its simplicity. Step 1, you have to identify the hidden underlying verb. Step 2, figure out the participants, meaning ask yourself who is the actor actually doing this verb and who is the receiver getting it. And by the way, even an inanimate object like a book can be a participant. Finally, step 3, you rewrite the verse clearly, dragging those hidden elements out into the open.
Let's test drive this toolkit. Picture 12-year-old Jesus in the temple. A very literal translation says, they were amazed at his understanding. Now, grammatically speaking, understanding is a noun here. It's framed as a possessible thing, like a house or a dog. But conceptually, it's totally an action. So applying the toolkit. Step 1, the underlying verb is to understand. Step 2, the participants. Jesus is the one doing the understanding, and what he's understanding are the concepts they're discussing. Step 3, we rewrite it dynamically. They were amazed at how he understood the things. Look at that! Suddenly Jesus is an active participant in the scene, and the whole manner of his action is crystal clear.
All right, Section 4, Decoding the Fruit of the Spirit.
Do you remember that blah 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 problem in Papua New Guinea we talked about? That was from Galatians 5, the fruit of the Spirit passage. Now, we really need to clarify something here. This phrase is what Greek scholars call an objective genitive. That means it is absolutely not just a list of the Holy Spirit's personality traits hovering somewhere out in space. Not at all. It means the Holy Spirit produces these concrete, real qualities in people. This is exactly how you take abstract concepts and make them hit the ground running. Let's map a few out. For the noun love, the hidden verb is to love. The actors, a person, and the other people around them. The result? The Holy Spirit makes a person love others. For joy, it becomes the action to rejoice. So, the Holy Spirit makes the person rejoice. And for peace, which can be a tricky one to find a verb for, it translates dynamically to the Holy Spirit makes the person peaceful. Do you see the shift? We're moving away from these vague, floaty concepts and turning them into clear, actionable behaviors that involve the spirit, the individual, and the community.
And as you keep going down that list, you realize these are highly interactive virtues. Take faithfulness. What's the underlying verb there? It isn't just having faith in some internal, abstract way. It's totally interactive. It means being trustworthy, being reliable, stepping up to commitments. It translates to being faithful to your family by protecting them and providing for them. So the dynamic translation becomes about the spirit making a person dependable to others. We've entirely unmasked the noun.
Moving right along to Section 5, the participle puzzle. Now, if you thought abstract nouns were tough, participles are notoriously the hardest linguistic suspects to nail down. Dr. Payton actually points out that Professor Darrell Bach over at Dallas Seminary calls the Greek participle arguably the #1 hardest feature of New Testament Greek to interpret, and by extension, the hardest thing to translate. They are everywhere in Greek, but man, they are incredibly tricky to pin down in English.
Let's decode one of these so you see what I mean. Take this literal participle phrase from the book of Mark, arriving in Jerusalem. Okay, well, who is arriving, and when exactly are they arriving? The Greek participle just swallows that information up. To decode it, a translator has to restore the hidden actors, which, contextually here, are Jesus and the disciples, but they also have to restore the hidden time reference. This phrase isn't trying to describe the literal physical process of walking for hours. It's a time expression meant to set the stage, so we have to insert the word when. The clarified translation becomes, when Jesus and the disciples arrived in Jerusalem. It just completely illuminates the scene, right?
And finally, Section 6, why clear translation matters. You guys, this is so much more than just a dry academic exercise. It has a profound global impact. Dr. Payton shared this incredibly powerful story about running a translation workshop with a Tanzanian colleague. And after teaching this exact method, turning verbal ideas back into verbs, his colleague just looked at him and said that this single principle was probably the absolute most important thing he had ever been taught as a translator. It is literally the key to unlocking the true meaning of the text for thousands of languages all over the world.
Which leads us to this really profound realization from Dr. Payton. When we actually do the hard linguistic work to break these words down, our own understanding of the text is supercharged. Instead of treating these abstract nouns as just beautiful, poetic thoughts floating around in the ether, we realize they are deeply rooted in action. As Payton says, these are things Paul wrote to us because he expected us to do them.
So, I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on today. Translation isn't just about reading words. It's about recovering the real action behind them. Now that you've got this linguistic detectives toolkit and you can see these hidden verbs disguised all around you, how are you going to act out these abstract nouns today? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep asking questions, and I will catch you on the next one.